What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the heavy NPCs because something changed with these NPCs recently in Season 4. Wasn't really in patch notes, and I haven't really seen anybody talk about it, so that's what we're going to be going over in this video. As always, if you guys do find this helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of the Heavy Specialist NPCs after this change. So, the Heavy Specialist NPCs were the ones that carried Frag Grenades, and they would basically just throw grenades all the time, and then when they got eliminated, they would drop a bunch of grenades when they died that would blow up, and they weren't really that good because a lot of times, like, the NPCs are kind of rather slow to do anything to begin with, and the fight would oftentimes be over or be like very close to being over by the time the heavy NPCs even threw the grenades, and then you had to worry about, like, you know, the time it takes for the grenades to detonate, the enemy players dodging it, and things like that. But with a recent change, and I would imagine this is because Frag Grenades were vaulted in Season 4, and we got the EMP Grenades, the Heavy Specialist NPCs now carry EMP Grenades. And this is huge because the EMPs blow up on impact. They do 70 shield damage immediately. And the Specialist NPC seems to kind of throw two in unison, so they'll like throw two back to back, and that's 140 shield damage. And if you play zero build, that's basically all the shield that your opponent is going to have, because 100 shield plus the 50 overshield is going to be 150. So even if your NPC only throws 2 EMPs at the person, that leaves them with 10 shield left, and that is a lot of damage out of an NPC in a very short time span. Like all the NPCs in Fortnite, you know, whether or not they work or decide to work in that moment, or like their accuracy with things can be kind of, you know, not good at times, but I think this is a massive buff for the heavy NPC, and it's definitely something I would consider taking now, whereas like in the past, I wouldn't think about it at all. The Heavy Specialist NPCs that are currently in the game are going to be the Beast Mode NPC at Breakwater Bay, the Fish Stick NPC at the farm or the little like outskirts houses in between Relentless Retreat and Shattered Slabs. If you complete the Fish Stick challenges and raise your reputation with them, you'll be able to hire him, and he works like a Heavy Specialist NPC. And there also is a Brutus NPC that can spawn from a Rift event. This is just completely random where this will be on the map or if you'll encounter it at all. But if you do encounter this Brutus NPC, they work like the other Heavy Specialists, and they will throw EMP Grenades at enemies, so that's pretty good. The most common one is probably going to be the one at Breakwater Bay if you choose to go for that, or Fish Stick if you have completed his challenges. And the NPC will also throw EMP Grenades at business turrets and cars, which will shut both of these things down for a period of time. So if you are someone who's been having like a really rough time dealing with the business turret, I know a lot of players like complain about that. This NPC can basically invalidate it if the NPC decides to throw the EMPs at the business turret or the car at like said time. Once again, like I said, the NPCs can be very inconsistent. Like the way I look at it is they do have like a nice little bonus, and they can be helpful under certain circumstances. But if you're hiring these NPCs and then kind of relying too much on them or expecting too much out of them, I feel like you're going to be put in some bad situations. Whereas like if you just hire them and like if they work, cool. If they don't, that's fine too. Then like I think that's like a much better mindset to have with these NPCs. Another nice thing about this change is that since it uses EMP grenades now instead of frags, you don't have to worry about the NPC destroying your cover, because sometimes they will just throw them randomly for no reason. And in the past, you know, if you're in a porta bunker or you're behind a tree or a rock or whatever, and your man decides to just throw a bunch of grenades, that's going to destroy your cover. But the EMPs don't do any structure damage at all. And then also they don't do any damage to you if your NPC hits you. So that's good. You don't have to worry about any sort of self-damage, and you don't have to worry about the NPC destroying cover. I also feel like the EMP grenades are quieter. Like they still do have like a very distinct noise, but I feel like it does draw less attention from enemy players or potential third parties if they hear a few EMPs go off than if they hear a bunch of frag grenades go off. When the NPC is eliminated, it will still drop a bunch of grenades for some reason that kind of blow up after their death. I don't know why they haven't changed that, because that's the only time this NPC will use frag grenades is when they die. So if you are in a bunker or behind a piece of cover and someone eliminates your NPC, then it will drop grenades, which could potentially, you know, destroy your cover and leave you stranded. But other than that, they shouldn't be throwing any frag grenades or anything like that during the course of the game. Should just be EMPs, and that will just knock off electronics like the business turret, the cars, and then it will also, you know, do shield damage, which can be very, very helpful under certain fights. I think this change is definitely a huge buff to the Heavy Specialist NPC. Before this change, I thought they were really bad. I wouldn't ever want to hire them ever because, like I said, I didn't want those grenades to just randomly destroy my cover. But the EMPs, it doesn't hurt you as much. I feel like there's more potential gain because if they do happen to hit near an enemy, the enemy doesn't have to sit there and wait for the grenade to blow up. It blows up on impact, and that's 70 shield damage to your enemy. So this is a huge buff. I think these NPCs got a lot better. It still isn't something I would really go for myself, though, mainly just because of where they are on the map. I don't really like landing Breakwater Bay. I did for this video to get gameplay of it. And then the same thing with where Fish Stick is. I don't really want to land. Like, both of these spots are pretty low-key, in my opinion. Like, it's not just how I would want to play the game. And then also, I tend to play solos. And a lot of times, by the time the NPC even realized I was fighting somebody, especially if it was like a mid-range fight where I was ARing them, then I would already have their shield off or like basically off by the time the NPC threw the grenades. Like, there were a few times where it helped me and it did like destroy the enemy's shield. But more often than not, it was slower to react than I would have liked. And I think this is mainly just a problem of solos. If you're playing squads, especially in zero build, the fights do kind of go longer and there's more kind of situations where you and the enemies are kind of like trading damage back and forth, you know? And in those situations, the NPC throwing the EMPs, like, it has more time to potentially get the EMPs out and have it be impactful. Whereas like solos, you know, if you're fighting somebody, that fight is going to be over pretty quick, you know, especially if you're catching them off guard and you're getting first shot with a twin mag arrow, their shield is going to go away very, very quickly. But in squads, the fights do go longer. The NPC has more time to potentially get the EMPs out and have it like still actually be impactful because the enemies have shield. And then you also have the potential of the NPC hitting multiple people at once, because if people are clustered up together, you know, maybe sharing the same piece of cover, and then your NPC throws EMPs at them, then it's probably going to hit both of them, and you're going to get a lot of value out of that one EMP grenade or those two EMP grenades that the NPCs throw. Because it will affect multiple people if they're too close. And again, the EMP grenades blow up on impact, and this makes it much harder for the opponents to play against because they have no time to react. By the time the nade hits them, that damage is done, and 70 shield damage being hit like that can really, really change the tides of a fight and just stress a lot of players out. Another thing that kind of makes these NPCs more valuable in squads, in my opinion, is just that the mode is a little more chaotic, and so having multiple targets to worry about to begin with, I feel like makes the NPCs kind of blend in better. Whereas in solos, it can be pretty easy to differentiate which one is the NPC and which one is the real player because you are only used to dealing with one player at a time. If I had to rank the Specialist NPCs, I think I would still have this at the bottom. I think the Sniper Scout NPC that scans the area is really good. And like, even if you aren't fighting, this can be super helpful because you might get alerted to people whose, you know, location you previously weren't aware of. And then the Supply Specialist NPC can drop shockwaves and bunkers if that's what you have out. I think it can even drop EMPs if that's what you have out when it goes to resupply you. But mainly shockwaves is one of the main things. Like, shockwaves and bunkers are the main things people care about when it comes to the supply NPCs. And I feel like that is probably going to have more impact on your game than just this NPC throwing EMP grenades, but it can be very helpful. It definitely can save your fight. I think it was a huge buff. It definitely made it closer to the other Specialist NPCs, but I think the Heavy Specialist is probably still the weakest of the three, and that's mainly just because of how good the Sniper Scout can be and how good the Supply one can be. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.